Uh, Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. Thank y'all for tuning in with us. We had just an exciting weekend of college football. We're glad to be back talking with y'all on a Monday night. Monty, what's up, man? How are you?
The SEC is turning into basically and they still are, but basically what the Big 12 was going to be, or what the Big 12 was supposed to be. I mean, what a freaking disaster weekend for the SEC. Obviously, a couple other teams, Tennessee included, were kind of on the sidelines in a good way. But freaking, I mean, each weekend just gets crazier and crazier in college football. We have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, it seems it changes every week. The teams we thought coming out of the last weekend were like, these ones are going to be the locks. They've got it figured out. They come into this week and then everything changes. So
I mean,
yeah,
and how you can't be romantic for college football is still beyond me because I mean it's just like I said every week it's just this insane. I can't get enough of it.
yeah, absolutely. So as always, y'all, we're going to kick off this episode. We'll do a Week 13 recap. We'll hit y'all through some of the biggest games, some of the ones that we predicted. We'll go cover. We're going to touch on the AP Top 25. Obviously, we're here Monday night. College football rankings don't drop till tomorrow, but we'll do mainly our predictions of how we feel those are going to go. Based on where the AP poll is. Um, and then we'll go into our predictions for what is called Rivalry Week in college football. Um, and then we'll finish up the show with our dubs and duds of the week, as we always do. So, Monty, let's go ahead and dive right in, man. We had Alabama coming to Norman, Oklahoma, and they got beat down. How about them Sooners, baby? 24-3 took Alabama to the woodshed. Man, this was all right. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and tell y'all like, I told y'all last week. I didn't. I predicted wrong. However, what I what I did say was Oklahoma's path to victory. Oklahoma's path through victory was to play through their defense, cause Jalen Milroe to throw the ball, beat him with his arm, and then force him into a couple turnovers and cash in on those turnovers. And Oklahoma did exactly that. It looked early on like they were going to have the same kind of offensive mistakes. They had a fumble when they drove the ball down the field on the first drive. They had a second drive. They had a drop touchdown. I mean, Bauer Sharp is wide open in the end zone and just drops it. Just drops it on a cool little double pass that Joe John Finley schemed up. Overall, though, man, it's been talked about and I've seen it discussed. And I would honestly agree with it. I think this is the biggest win of the Brent Venables era for Oklahoma football. Um, and man, I don't think there's a couple you can maybe say that are as close or closer, like the Texas game last year. But overall, I think as far as all the questions that Brent Venables faced, all the questions,
Nothing going your way this year.
yeah, nothing going your way. You're a dog at home to the number 7 team that everybody thinks has already figured it out. Alabama stumbled early on. They're like, hey, they've got it worked out now. Kalen DeBoer's got that thing rolling. And man, Brent Venables in Oklahoma just stunned them. I mean, dominated the line of scrimmage, both sides, offensive line, defensive line. They ran the ball. Jackson Arnold, I mean, granted, he wasn't asked to throw much. He threw for 68 yards in this game. However, he ran for 131 yards on 25 attempts. I mean, just running the. I mean, you would have thought, that's Jalen Milroe's, kind of game plan. But overall, I mean, they protected the ball. They had I mentioned the one turnover early. And it's just, it's impressive considering that this offensive staff looked at it. We lost Brennan Thompson in this game. So it's like, okay, now we're down our top 6 receivers who we had coming into this year. And we just got to lean on the run game. The offensive line has obviously shown some improvement. They got some young guys playing in it who have gotten nothing but better, the past couple weeks. As you give these young, talented guys more experience, more reps, they get more familiar with it. So yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit of a pause there. Monty, what did you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. I mean, you said everything about the OU side. Really, mainly want to talk about Alabama side. First, obviously defensive domination by OU. That, like you said, I mean, they sit now at this point, right? When I said it a couple weeks ago, OU needed to. The goal was to make a bowl, right? And you did that. I mean, it's a huge. I mean, this is you got bowl eligible against Alabama. I mean, that is as big as. I mean, as big as you could have thought it, but no, I mean, it was domination by OU's defense. And you scored points on offense too. I mean, when I believe I texted you during the game, I said, man, when this offense, or I said to somebody, when this offense scores points, they're actually a really good team. It's just
Yeah.
that, throughout the year, they didn't really score, and that was the problem, right? Another thing I want to know, at the atmosphere, I mean, that was a huge factor. It was a sold-out game still. You had a 5-5 Oklahoma team, 1-5 in the SEC, playing Alabama, top 10 Alabama, and you still sold the game out, and it was still deadly. That's an SEC crowd right there, and they got an A+ for that. It's almost like Norman's a tough place to play.
Almost seems that way. Almost seems that way.
Because they were trying to take that away from us. But anyways, I digress. On the Bama side of it, though, the problem with Alabama this year, and that we've seen in every game that they've struggled in or lost, they're a severely QB-driven team. Like, violently reliant on QB play. If Milroe doesn't play well, they don't play well. If he plays great, they're great. 26, 164, touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 15 carries for 7 yards. Granted, that counts, sacks and stuff, but I mean, that was OU. That was a stat line against OU. My point, versus Tennessee, 25-45, 239, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 14 carries, 11 yards. Against Vandy, the other game that they lost, the third game they lost, 18-24, 310, a touchdown and a pick, 7 carries, 10 yards. Against South Carolina, they won, but by 2. 16-23, 209, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 18 carries, 36 yards. Right? On the flip side, in a 42-13 rout against LSU, 12 of 18, only 109 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. People are like, what point are you trying to make? 12 carries, 185 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then against Georgia, 27 of 33, 374, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 16 carries, 117, 2 touchdowns. When this guy plays great, Alabama is seemingly unstoppable. When he's not playing well, they are not good at football.
Yeah, and
this is not taking anything away from OU. OU played a lights out game. They're especially on defense, and like I said, I gave them credit. They scored points, and when they score points, they're a good football team with that defense. However, it is night and day. Jalen Milroe plays bad.
well, my thing about it is, it seems everybody kind of made a big deal that how Kalen Borders designs his offenses is that he designs them to fit his players. It seems to me that this Alabama offense is designed not to fit his players, almost to seem to fit his player. It's designed around Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe runs.
We've seen this offense before. It works in college. In college, it works when you have Johnny Manziel, when you have somebody consistent like Johnny Manziel. It happened at A&M under Sumlin with Manziel. It was extremely reliant on Manziel to make the big play, but Manziel was eons better than Jalen Milroe. And if not eons better, he's eons more consistent than Jalen Milroe. So it's just, the night and day difference is it doesn't work in it with a guy like Jalen Milroe, and we see that.
Yeah, and one of the things
or it doesn't work enough to get you to the playoffs.
Yeah, one of the things that really impressed me about how the OU defense played it is, you'll see a lot of teams whenever they have a real dynamic quarterback, they'll drop to like a QB spy. And granted, it was there on sometimes, but I mean, they were able to the defensive line was able to just dominate the offensive tackles of Alabama, but still maintain their rush lanes, meaning they weren't leaving that cutback lane for Jalen Miller to step up and go through. They were more or less staying in their rush lane, containing him in, and collapsing the pocket on him. which, I mean, they were in his face all night. So his throwing numbers aren't very good. But I mean, he was pressured almost, I mean, constantly pressured, constantly had pressure in his face. And man, the Oakland, let me say it like this. OU fans needed this one. All right, after the season they went through, granted they stormed the field early. Hey, there's not a lot of field storming that happens in Norman, Oklahoma. All right, I think they said this is the first time in Norman since 2000 that OU stormed the field. Now this is also the worst. This is the worst or the fewest points that Alabama has scored since 2004. So I mean, just think about how.
I will say I'm not taking anything away from OU's like historical and why they don't rush. I think this year is just the year of the field storm. I mean, how many have
Yeah,
we seen this year? I think it's more of just a student thing, a popularity thing, and with the fine being what it is, the students are kind of like a stick it to the man. So I'm definitely not. I'm not. I don't think anyone should criticize OU for storming the field against Alabama. I know Alabama fans are like, oh, it was like the last 10 road games that they've lost. The field's been stormed or something like that.
I didn't see
Um,
that stat, but yeah, if that is a
yeah,
thing.
it's something crazy like that. Which I mean, hey, being Alabama's a big deal.
Mhm.
Saban's been there for 15 years. That he created that. Props to them for that. But I mean, not taking anything away from OU fan. I don't think OU should be criticized because they stormed the field. I think it's more of just a trend right now.
Yeah,
But
definitely seems
anyways,
to be. I mean, I think there was. I mean, there was what three games in which the field was stormed. At least I know off the top of my head. I know Arizona State.
Nebraska
Yeah.
stormed the field against Wisconsin because they became bowl eligible. Like,
Hey, that was a big deal for Nebraska fans. Okay, they've
yeah,
been they've been
hey,
going through it. They've been going through it.
100%, 100%. But that's to my point, right? It's like it, you know,
Yeah. So like I said, I ain't gonna hold the field storm thing against them. I mean, that's it's
I don't
kind
think
of
anyone should.
no, absolutely not. And I think that was a fun environment. I mean, they did it on senior night, so those guys that came in and, the original ones with Brent Venables, Danny Stutzman, Ethan Downs, Woody Washington, um, Jaleel Farouk. Crap, I'm missing one.
The seniors.
Billy Bowman. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot about Billy Bowman. So yeah, those guys, they came in and helped Brent pretty much restart this program after Riley left, and it was just a cool deal for them. Their last game in Norman, to kind of have that experience and send them out. So that was really cool, and man, this gives me a little bit of confidence going into this week. So we'll see. We'll talk a little bit more about OU. And we'll talk a lot more about Bama here a little bit later. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We had UTEP, the Mighty Miners, coming to Tennessee, take on Tennessee. Tennessee ended up winning 56-0. Monty, what'd you think? I didn't get to watch too much of this game, so
Yeah, I was able to. I was working. It was a noon game, or I guess, yeah, it was a noon game. I was able to watch most of it. One thing I did watch for sure was the extremely slow start that Tennessee had against a bad UTEP team. Um, First quarter was awful to watch. It was tough to watch too. Not just Tennessee as a whole. Defense played, of course, lights out all game, but which that shows in the score, 56-0. Right, we blanked them as we should, but it's very slow start on offense. Very very slow start for Nico, which was concerning. Um, he had this awful underthrow over the middle in the first quarter that almost ended up in a pick. Probably should have been. The guy kind of dropped it, but it was just so behind the receiver. It was a touchdown. It was probably like a 70-yard touchdown, and just behind. Like, wasn't even overthrown. It wasn't like at his feet. It was just behind him over the middle. I mean, it was bad. And between the fumbled snap and the 3-and-outs, it was just an awful first quarter to watch and concerning when we had Vandy the next week. Luckily, once that second quarter came around, it was lights out. I mean, Nico took a little bit longer than the rest of the team, but ended up being, I mean, just a total dominant game, which, like I said, did what they were supposed to. Career high, 4 passing touchdowns in the game. they did what they're supposed to, and it's on to Vandy.
Yeah, big one this week. There's nothing more that Vandy's going to want than this upset win over Tennessee here.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm looking at it, I'm just kind of glancing over the stats here. So did they just not rush Dylan Sampson as much? Maybe try to keep his legs a little fresh. I saw he only had 11 attempts in this game.
Yeah, well, because he had a touchdown,
Mhm.
but I know Cam Seldon even got some touches, so they were getting some guys some play, which it made sense. We went up like it started really slow in the first quarter, but we went up 21-0, 28-0 pretty quick after that. So it was
Yeah,
like get everyone out. I mean, James Pierce got a little dinged up in the second half, and they pulled him right away. Nico didn't play the fourth quarter at all, I don't believe. I don't even know if Samson did either, but yeah, they were trying to get everybody rested as fast as they could. So
I really hope that's not a typo. I'm looking at UTEP's quarterback's name. Is his name really JP Pickles?
yes,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, and he
What
was
a
a headache
name.
in the first, and he was a headache in the first quarter too.
What a name. What a name. Yeah.
Which that was also another thing. I didn't note this, but you made me think of it. That I was telling some of my buddies earlier. I was like, my concern with Vanderbilt, what's unsettling for me is that UTEP quarterback was a headache in the first quarter, running the ball. Diego Pavia is basically a version of him, but better.
hmm
Now, I will say it kind of slowed down once we started finally spying him, but the time it took to spy him to
Yeah.
figure it out, I mean, it was a little concerning. And like I said, we blanked him, right? But it's UTEP, not Vanderbilt, which is weird to say. But
yeah.
fact of the matter is that Vandy's not UTEP anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Vandy
So
is they're no easy draw. Everybody they played this year, they've been pretty competitive in most
and it's
games.
it's our in-state rival. It's Tennessee's in-state rival. So you just never know with them being decent this year. And I will say the one thing we have going for us, Tennessee has going for them. Um, this is probably, arguably in the Heupel era, probably in the last 10 years, the biggest game Tennessee football has had. This Vanderbilt game.
Hmm.
You win, you're in. You're done. This is for a national championship, right? I mean, or a
Yeah.
shot at one. So, I mean, in my opinion, coming at like as a Tennessee fan, and I think most Tennessee fans could probably agree with me, this is probably the biggest game in the Heupel era, at least.
Well, I mean, you think about this. This is really your first playoff game.
In
If
a
you
sense, yeah, win or go home, yeah.
yeah.
So
So yeah, I mean, it's
we'll
like
see. Oh, yeah. It's.
it,
I mean, I'm going to be as nervous for this one as I was for the Georgia game and for the Alabama game, for the OU game, even.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, one thing we didn't note, but one thing I was just thinking about, Tennessee. We could kind of talk on it a little bit later, but it's like they played UTEP, kind of inferior competition, if you want to say that. But they were kind of the winner of the weekend in a way, which we can touch on a little bit later here when we go over the top 25.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. We could. I got some notes on that too, so we can talk about that.
cool. Let's move on to the next game. Big one for the Big 12. BYU versus Arizona State. Arizona State ended up winning 28-23. Man, Kenny Dillingham is going to get a big extension for this Arizona State team.
It's year one.
Yeah.
It's year one for this guy. Dude, you predicted it right. I predicted it incorrectly. I thought BYU bounced back. Um, but watching that game, well, okay, I'll start off with this. Scatabo might be the most underrated player in the country. He might be the most underrated. I mean, he literally 28 carries, 147, 3 touchdowns. I mean, and in my opinion, he's probably the main reason why they won. Being able to dominate on the guy. When you have 28 carries in the game, you're giving this guy the rock a lot. Um, but the atmosphere that Kenny Dillingham has brought back. I mean, that was like '90s Arizona State.
Yeah.
He's bringing old ASU back. Like old, this isn't a good ASU team, and they've been quiet all year, and now they control their destiny in the Big 12 and probably in the playoff picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, I noted the weird ending to that game. We don't really have to talk about it, but
I thought it
for
was
anyone
cool.
that doesn't, yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Arizona State had the ball with like 4 seconds left. They snapped the ball, and their quarterback just threw it as high as he could, basically, to try to run the clock out. And once he did that, everyone stormed the field, another field storm. And the refs said that the ball hit the ground with 1 second left, not zero. So they made everyone get back off the field, and BYU, and that was a fourth down, right?
Yep, fourth down.
And so BYU got the ball, Hail Mary. It was caught inside the 5, but it was short. And so ASU was able to escape with that one. But 28-23 was the final, so they would have won had they scored that. But either way, I mean, that's what we expected in this game. We expected it to be a close one. But, man, Scatabo, like I said, underrated player. Underrated team, but underrated player.
Yeah, no, he was Arizona State. I mean, the thing about it was, I mean, BYU, they didn't necessarily play bad, but Arizona State, I mean, they just controlled the time of possession with Scattaboo and just, I mean, it ran it down their throat and didn't really get limited BYU's opportunities. I think there was only, I'm pretty sure BYU only had like 8 drives in this one, which I mean is just that's a tremendous scouting report by Arizona State's coaching staff, and you got to give a hats off to them for that good game plan. And like you said, man, they are in the driver's seat for both the playoff and the Big 12 championship. They if you want to go, all they got to do is win out. They got a big
I mean,
one.
you got to think same thing kind of for Tennessee, right? For ASU and Iowa State, we'll get there. Playoffs kind of start now,
Yeah,
especially in the Big 12.
yeah. Which I mean, they got an Arizona team next week that's not really playing the best of football, but as you've seen with the Big 12, it's probably the only conference that's eaten itself alive more than
And
the SEC is right now.
and that rivalry, people not from the West Coast don't know, but that rivalry is a nasty one. That Arizona's going to come to play. So
Yeah, so exciting one that this week. Let's go ahead and roll on. We had another big top 25 matchup. We had Army versus Notre Dame.
just total letdown.
Yeah, that was Notre Dame is playing some good football right now. Notre Dame ended up winning 49-14 to Monty's dismay.
I was hopeful.
Yeah, we're hoping Army could maybe come in and control it, but Notre Dame kind of jumped out on them pretty quick and then just never really let up and never really let Army get a chance to claw back into it.
Yeah, I mean Notre Dame got Army in some third and longs pretty early. Capitalize on those once they gave the ball back to Notre Dame capitalized on with points. Um, but yeah, like I said, disappointing game. Obviously, I was hopeful. I thought maybe Army was, and Army had the 133rd worst, strength of schedule. So, they didn't play a lot of people this year. But I was hopeful, the way that they were dominating. Yeah, like you said, one thing I had noted, Notre Dame has been playing great football. I just people call me a Notre Dame hater. I'm not, but whatever. But they've been dominating, but they've been playing not good competition. And no matter what anybody says, oh, it was week 2, whatever. That Northern Illinois game still haunts me. And with the competition that they've been playing or lack thereof, we'll see with this USC game because USC's not bad. I mean, they're not good, but they're not bad. They have athletes to compete with Notre Dame at least.
That
That's
they do.
pretty typical. So we'll see how they fare against them. But man, uniforms of the week though, maybe even year for Notre Dame and Army, but Notre Dame. I mean, those things are sweet. I don't know if you saw them, but
You liked them?
dude, oh yeah, the gray with the freaking like chrome like 3D numbers, and they're like mega gold helmets. Oh yeah, those were sweet, dude. I'm all for tradition. Trust me, I love the traditional uniforms. I love when Tennessee wears the orange and white. I'm happy that Alabama just never strayed away from them. Texas the same. Penn State, whatever. Love when Notre Dame wears the golden domers and nothing else. But man, those were bad. I like those.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Whenever I was looking at them, I was like, man, I don't know. They just maybe they just didn't appeal too much to me. I don't know. Something. It was something about the gray color. It had like I don't know. It seemed like it almost had like a little blue in it. It was kind of weird for me.
Yeah, I liked them. I liked them.
So, but yeah, I mean, Notre Dame, they've got a tough kind of schedule coming up. One thing I noticed is I was like, well, at least when I was watching this game, I'm like, it kind of saved us a playoff game. Because, I mean, if Army doesn't play, this Notre Dame team, I mean, it's tough to keep an undefeated team out of the playoff now. Granted, crazier things have definitely happened. But with the new 12 team, I mean, it's almost, that's kind of tough to do. But, Army is also, they're not a team that's built to play from behind. They're built to play with a lead and play on time. So, like you said, they, Notre Dame forced them into a lot of third and longs. That's not where Army's going to.
Yeah, they're not designed to play on third and long.
They're down to do, it's 3-4 yard bits, just chomp your way down the field. And they're not meant to play from behind. So, you get them down in a hole. They're not built to kind of rally out from that deficit. And that's just kind of, it just kind of is what it is. It's kind of the style of football they play. And it's just kind of what happens with it. But yeah, we'll see what Notre Dame has. I mean, I
would say at this point they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're.
They still got USC, but you can even still make the argument with that the committee might still keep them in. So,
I mean, if we're debating 3-loss teams, it's like Notre Dame at a 2-loss, they're probably still get in.
And I still we don't have it on the docket for this episode, but I'll come out and say it. I pick Notre Dame over USC still. So
yeah, I would too. I don't. They've just been more consistent in that defense and running game. I think it's going to be that is what travels is defense and running games.
And they're letting Riley Leonard be Riley Leonard finally. So
yep.
They have been this year, but
yeah. So let's go ahead. We'll hit the last game. It was a top 5 matchup. Number 2 versus number 5. Indiana taking on Ohio State. Ohio State ended up winning 38-15. And Monty, what'd you think watching this one, man?
Well, I mean, we were right.
Yeah.
Ohio State rolled Indiana. The final score was kind of 31-7, right? Both teams had a trash time TD, but hey, final score is final score. 38-15. No, I mean I'm not going to harp on the whole Indiana's a fraud, this and that. I'm sure enough people have seen that and the arguments for and against. But one thing, it also shows how good Ohio State actually is in their defense and how much of a complete team they are and why they were able to stand up to Oregon the way that they did when they played them. But no, the big argument was that, had Indiana not screwed up on special teams, like it wouldn't have been that bad. It wasn't just special teams, right? Like I said, the one touchdown that Indiana had at the end, that was a trash time TD. They only scored one touchdown. That was in the first quarter. They had one really good drive in the first quarter. It was like their first drive, I'm pretty sure. They go down. Ohio State has no answer. They score, right? And it looks good. It looks like Indiana was, the real thing. But then after that, it was just pure dominance by Ohio State. So this argument about it's just special teams. Well, it was special teams because Ohio State had you flustered. It's a tough place to play, but that's why you play these games. Curtis Rourke, 8 of 18, 68 yards and 0 touchdowns in a 4-quarter game. Negative 33 rushing. Yes, that includes sacks, but that just goes to show you, that negative 33 yards. their leading rusher, Tyson Lawton. I don't want to get his name. I think it's Tyson Lawton, but it's two words.
Yeah.
15 carries, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns, and one of them was that trash time touchdown. Indiana had 153 total yards of offense. So I've seen a lot of things on X about, Indiana held Ohio State to 316 yards of total offense. That's the second lowest all year. Fine, they still put 38 up on you, or 31 if you don't want to count that last touchdown. It still scored 30 plus, and you didn't score more than we'll say more than 17, but more than 15, right?
Yeah.
It was just and I watched the game. It was shouldn't have been at noon, but it was a pure domination game by Ohio State. And now we'll get to the CFP stuff. I still think with what happened this last week, Indiana's got a fighting chance. But yeah, Ohio State's definitely the second best team in the country right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think this said just more about Ohio State than it did Indiana.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I just don't. Man, so whenever I watch this game, right, and I was, I didn't get to watch the full thing. I had to kind of check in as it was going through. Man, I didn't see the gap. Indiana, the AP poll dropped them back to number 10, which we'll get to. Just one thing I want to hit on. Penn State is sitting there with, not much better wins than what Indiana has. With the same loss to Ohio State. Now, granted, the final score is closer, but the game was still the same style. The only difference here is that, Ohio State gave Penn State some points, and then Indiana was the one who gave Ohio State these points with the kicker not being able to hold on to the ball and all that. Or the punter, sorry. And that's kind of my point is, like, I just don't know if the gap is that significant between Indiana and Ohio State, because I think, or Indiana and Penn State, because I think Ohio State really controlled both of the games.
I agree with you, but it's not my choice. Right? I think Penn State is the most fraudulent number 4 team in the country ever, probably, or one of them. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't really know why, but I mean they have a. I think we'll see what the committee says in the rankings tomorrow. Again, this is a Monday for everybody. November 25th, Monday. So we don't know the new rankings yet. So we'll see where they put Indiana. I think it has a lot to do with the strength of schedule thing. But, man, this committee is so inconsistent. Like, they weren't considering strength of schedule, but now that, like, they are maybe. Who knows? So, but yeah, I agree with you. They're about the same.
Yeah, I mean, like
I
said,
other than strength of schedule, they're about the same.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we just saw Penn State.
Actually,
weekend.
Penn State lost at home. Indiana lost on the road to Ohio State. So
yeah, and we just saw Penn State this weekend. I mean, get all they could handle from a 6-5 Minnesota team. Now, granted, that 6-5 Minnesota team is playing. They play good ball. They play good ball under PJ Fleck, but
they're like the Florida of the Big Ten.
Yeah, but my thing is that I just didn't. When I was watching this game, I was like, Ohio State is clearly that's the common opponent for these two, right? Or at least the game that I've watched. I'm sure they might have a different common opponent, but whenever I'm watching, I'm like, well, this isn't much different than the Penn State game. Ohio State, they scored a little bit more, but I mean, Indiana also. I mean, they were able to get a touchdown drive. What can you say? I mean, outside of.
Penn State didn't have any touchdown drives.
No, they had a touchdown, but I think it was off of
pick six.
Yeah, it was a pick six, right? Yeah,
in the first quarter, and they scored 13 in that game.
Exactly. So that's kind of my point. Is that you can say I just didn't see the gap being that huge between Indiana and Penn State. That is,
like I said, to me personally, you're preaching to the choir. That's out of my hands. So.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and hit the top 25. Let's get rolling on through it. No changes really in the top 3, top 4. Oregon's probably going to be number 1. Ohio State's definitely going to be number 2 after their win this week. Texas probably still going to be checking in at number 3 after they handle Kentucky pretty well.
Hey,
I
handled
mean,
them all right.
they lost Quinn Ewers, who went down for a little bit. I think he was kind of hindered a little bit. But so is there anything whenever you're looking at it? I mean, obviously we got the AP top 25 up. We don't have the college football top 25. One thing that stands out to me is I just want to give a shout out. Shout out to the Mustangs, baby. Number 9 AP poll. Hey, believed on them in the early part of the season. Lost a little bit of faith, but I came back. And Mustangs are playing some really good football right now. I mean, they pretty well.
Arguably the favorite.
I mean, I'm going to pick them against Miami.
I will too. So we'll let everyone know now. Yeah, we're both picking SMU to win that ACC championship. Which, by the way, they clinched their spot.
Clinched. Yep. Georgia also clinched a spot in the SEC championship with a huge matchup coming this weekend, which we'll talk about a little bit later, between two of the other teams, jostling for a spot there in the SEC championship. Arizona State up to 14, Alabama down to 13 in the AP poll.
Should be further down.
Yeah, like I said, I think Alabama. I think that's a little too high. I mean, whenever you just saw, look, I'm real in this, right? Just because Oklahoma beat Alabama the way they beat them doesn't mean that Oklahoma's just this juggernaut. All right, we still don't really have much of an offense. You watch that game, you're like, they're getting by, but it's not great.
I will say that's probably the best I've seen their offense this year, though.
Yeah, and we ran almost, it was almost the option offense or the veer options. Like it was, all we did was run the ball, and it was just, it was like the veer from the shotgun is really what it looked like. But yeah, and then you got Tulane lurking back there at number 18, and so just one thing I wanted to touch on. I know I went down the rabbit hole a little earlier in the beginning of the show, and I know I don't believe this is going to happen. Just something for people to be aware of. All right, the college football playoff has 5 auto bids, and that goes to the top 5 ranked conference champions in the top 25. So those 5 auto bids is just the 5 highest ranked conference champions. It doesn't necessarily say that it has to be, one's the SEC champ, one's the big.
Well, it's 4 auto bids to the top conference champions. The 5th seed doesn't necessarily have to be a conference champion.
Wait, what do you mean?
So take a couple of the past rankings that they came out with. They had Oregon at 1, they had like Texas or somebody at 2, like Georgia at 3, and like Miami at 4 or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And they had Ohio State at 5.
Yeah, no, I get that. So what I'm saying is the 5 auto bids, meaning that somebody is automatically in. That's not the seeding order. The top 4 seeds are all conference champs. But as far as the bidding, the auto bids, it's the 5 highest ranked conference champs, meaning that, if 2 group of 5 teams, like say Tulane was like a 1-loss team.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Because BYU was like the Big 12, but they were at like number like 12 or whatever I don't know. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the highest ranked Big 12 team is number 14 Arizona State, and they got Tulane sitting behind them at number 18. Just a couple spots back. With Boise State is still in front of them. Now, Boise State is from the Mountain West Conference, and Tulane is from the AAC, meaning that both of them can win a conference championship. And if the Big 12 stutters or walks all over itself like it's had the tendency to do this year, there's potential for the Big 12 to not even get a team into the playoff. Now, I don't believe that's going to happen,
right.
but just wanted, hey, I haven't heard anybody really talk about that possibility. Everybody just kind of already assumes that, hey, it's going to be, ACC champ, Big 12 champ, SEC champ, Big 10 champ. Well, that's technically not what the rules state. So it very well could be.
It's just everyone kind of already assumed that the Power 4 conferences are going to get their conference champions in, which might be the case, down the line. As this playoff goes on, it might be the consistent thing. But this year, Yeah, that's not looking to be the case. Now, like you said, I believe also, well, because Iowa State's going to win the Big 12. So,
As the hot take called.
what week was that I made that? Was that the off season? Was that right
Yeah,
before the season
yeah.
started?
That was before week 0. I think that was like either a week or two before week 0.
Come on, man! Right when we thought it was gone, they're right back in it. They control their own destiny, by the way. But I was
They do.
gonna. That's one of my notes in this top 25 preview. But well, I'll let you finish. But yeah, Tulane very possible though.
Yeah. No, that was really the only thing I got. Missouri's still hanging around at number 24 spot. We've talked
They'll
enough
be in
about
there.
it. Talked enough about it.
Yeah,
You
we'll give the Mizzou fans a break
you got
this week.
anything? You got anything else on your top 25? We got Ole Miss. We didn't really mention it. Ole Miss dropped down to 15 after losing to Florida 24-17 in Gainesville, and man, that was kind of a surprising way to see Ole Miss lose. Jackson Dart had 2 opportunities to lead the game tying drive, and threw 2 picks, one bad into triple coverage, and yeah, just I didn't really see them kind of falling apart that way. And whenever you watch a little bit more on it a little later, so we'll touch on that here towards the end of the episode. Monty, you got anything on the top 25, man?
Yeah, I got a good bit actually. I'll try to make it quick. Like I said, like the other week, it was like last week or 2 weeks ago. Once the CFP committee top 25 comes out, I really don't look at the AP, so I haven't looked a whole lot at it. But one couple things I'll note. So like Ole Miss is eliminated, A&M is eliminated, Bama is eliminated. People are still trying to make this whole thing about it. Bama still being in it. They're done. Georgia and Tennessee should move up into the top 10. I saw in the AP they were. We'll see tomorrow if they do. I believe that they should. This is not coming from the Tennessee fan side of me. It's just based on who lost and who's in, who's out kind of thing. Georgia and Tennessee should both move up into that top 10, both in ranking and in seeding, which a lot of projections have Tennessee back at the 9. I think they're at the 9 seed or something like that in the playoff projections. Indiana might have gotten their asses ate with all the losing behind them. They're still, because that's the thing, right? Like people say what they want, but Indiana's still a 1-loss Big Ten team, and had others won, there's less of an argument for Indiana, but those guys didn't win. So I probably put Indiana in that seeding still. Like I said, Iowa State, when you're in,
Yeah,
you're in. That's all they got to do. We'll see. They got a tough one. Luckily in Ames, but they got a tough one against K-State this week. And then if they win that, they'll have to probably go play Arizona State in where do they play that? It's like Phoenix.
the Big 12.
Yeah, I forget where that one's at.
It might be Phoenix or it might be Vegas.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
SMU, I've noted SMU should be in the top 10, looking like they're probably going to be. Like I said, we'll see tomorrow. I personally think right now in the second half of the season they're playing better football than Miami. That's just my personal opinion, but I said this, Penn State is going to be the easiest number 4 to beat ever. I said that. I do believe that. So whoever gets that draw, the hardest part of that draw would be playing in Beaver Stadium.
Well, they very well. I mean, they won't. I guess they would get seeded right now. I mean, they're what at number 4? They're technically the 5 seed. No, 6 seed. 6 seed behind Ohio State.
Well, it depends how they both clinched, I think. Ohio State and
Oregon.
Oregon definitely did. Ohio State might have to win this week. They got Michigan.
Yeah.
They got Michigan.
I don't see it happening this year.
I don't see it either, but crazier things.
If Ryan Day loses this one, they will riot. They will riot in Columbus.
It'll be interesting to see, assuming Ohio State beats Michigan and loses the Big Ten championship, do they get penalized enough? Because people are saying don't penalize somebody for making the championship, but do they get penalized enough to drop below Penn State? So
Yeah.
they basically just go one spot behind Penn State, and then Penn State gets that first round bye, or not first round bye, but the home field at least. We'll see. But
I don't see it. But
the only other thing really I had on it, I guess this isn't too much about the top 25, but people were making the comparison of Texas if they lose Ewers. People were making the connection with Florida State last year losing Jordan Travis. So they better hope not to lose Quinn Ewers. I don't think the committee is going to make any. They set the precedent last year. That's on them. But I don't think they're going to treat Texas the same if they lose Ewers.
Well, let's just make it for comparison's sake. Florida State dropped from number 3 to number 5. The
But in a 14 playoff, that's everything.
Yeah, but the comparison would be Texas dropping from 3 to 13.
Only in seeding though.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have to drop in the rankings. I mean, they would probably drop in the rankings, but they wouldn't have to drop as far. You put them behind Georgia and Tennessee in the ranking side of it.
Yeah,
you put them at 8. You put them at 8 or 9 or whatever. Especially, well, we'll see if they go into College Station and just roll. But I mean, something to think about is just people were throwing that out there because of the precedent that the committee set last year. But it'll be what it'll be. People know my opinion on the committee, but it's just something I wanted to note because their schedule hasn't been that great either.
So, one thing I do want to note on, I just thought about it while you were talking. Clemson, I think, is going to be one of the key points to whether or not I want to see what the committee does with Clemson this week, because that's going to be one of the things that really weighs or gets in the way of one of those 3-loss SEC teams. The Bamas.
Clemson needs Miami or SMU to lose though.
Well,
I believe Miami.
I'm saying in regards to making an at-large bid. 9-2 Clemson with a big game this week against South Carolina.
Yeah, well, hell, Tennessee loses to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, like I said, a lot of craziness to happen. Let's go ahead and roll on to our predictions for rivalry week. Jesus Christ.
It's a tough one to say. Me and my dad have a whole thing about that. Rivalry week.
Yeah. You got it. All right, so we're going to go off Monty's saying of it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Rivalry week.
So first up, we got OU versus LSU. First kind of note I had on this one, OU's obviously traveling to Baton Rouge, take on the Tigers. Man, this one should be bedlam. This game should be bedlam. Other teams do it. Georgia, they play Georgia Tech this week. Obviously Clemson and South Carolina, out of conference foes or rivals in state. This game should be bedlam. I hope the administrators can, the two schools can figure that out to where, one of your non-conference games is now OU versus Oklahoma State.
Yeah. I mean, because South Carolina and Clemson play, it's like,
Yeah. Georgia Tech. I mean, it's not like the example, the example of it is not there. It's there.
Yeah, I agree. Who you got?
One sec. I gotta close the door real quick. Stupid dogs. They came and busted open the freaking door.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, stupid. All right. They've been barking their heads off the whole show too. Have you been able to hear it?
Yeah.
I've been trying to mute my mic. All right, coming back in. All right, so for OU versus LSU, I mean, whenever I'm looking at these two teams, I got to go with OU here. LSU is obviously favored by 6 in this one, but what I think Oklahoma has found is what LSU struggles with. I think Oklahoma may be one of the best defenses that LSU has played this season. And I also, you watch the Alabama game. OU has figured out how to run the football. And if you watch the Alabama game, that's exactly what Alabama did. They just ran the football down LSU, and they weren't able to stop it. Even watching Vandy last week, Vandy ran the football on LSU. And with Oklahoma's defense, man, I got to have faith in them. Defense travels, mainly because crowd noise doesn't try to affect their own offense. So defense is still able to travel and play. And a running game, I mean, if you're able to huddle up, get your play, go line it down, run the freaking football, that travels well in a hostile environment too, and can carry you through some games. So yeah, that's why I got to go with Oklahoma here. I think they figured out how to not shoot themselves in the foot and score just enough points to let the defense be able to get them a win.
Yeah, LSU, Death Valley, tough place to play
at night.
Very tough place to play. It's going to be another one of those environments. LSU bounced back big against Vanderbilt, beat them 24-17 this past week. Wore the yellow jerseys. You see those? Those are pretty sweet. LSU looking like they might have bounced back. But I'm going with Oklahoma. I'm going with the Sooners because same thing that you said, and the way that I look at it, right? LSU, what did they struggle with against Alabama? Why they got their asses beat? Running quarterback. What did Jackson Arnold just do against Alabama's defense? Alabama defense, who, in my opinion, is a better defense than LSU's defense.
Yep.
They struggle against a running quarterback, and you have a running quarterback in Jackson Darnold who just had an absolute game. So if you can get the run game going, especially with him, but just overall, those are run the ball. Those are environment killers, but also you're able to maintain that in a hostile environment. And yeah, I'm taking OU. I think that they're with that Alabama win, man, they're going to go into that game hot. And they've seen that Death Valley is not a death trap. People have won there this year, Alabama. So I think they're going to go into there not afraid, and I think that they're going to do it too.
Yeah, like I said, it's not. I don't think this is going to be easy. The transitive property in college football doesn't work. You would think if you're looking at it, you're like, well, LSU got dominated by Alabama, and then Oklahoma dominated Alabama, so OU's going to beat them by 100. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, like I said, it's going to be a tough one, but OU has the right. I think they figured out the right materials. Run game travels, defense travels. So I think they got the right. LSU struggles with what OU's kind of figured out with the run game, the QB run game. I think they're going to run Jackson Arnold a lot. And let's hope they can strap up and be the more physical football team.
All right, so we're both going with OU on that one. We agreed with that one. Next one,
Tennessee Vandy.
Obviously, we go with Tennessee Vanderbilt game. Bigger game than us Tennessee fans thought it would be at the start of the season. Not only in that Vandy is better than what they normally are, but also the playoff implications for Tennessee, the giant killer in what Vandy is now. And people can say what they want about me, but I've picked against them a couple times this year. I'm going with Tennessee only because our defense is better than Alabama's when Alabama played Vanderbilt. One of the top 10, at least top 10 defenses in the country. Diego Pavia scares me a little bit, but if we can spy him well and we can get to him when they're throwing the ball and force them to only run the ball, we'll be able to, I think that Tennessee will be able to control that. The main reason why I'm picking Tennessee is because, like I said earlier, how big of a deal this is probably the biggest game in Heupel's career, probably the biggest game in recent memory for Tennessee fans. It's in Nashville, and for those of you that don't know Tennessee as a state and Nashville, the vast majority of Nashville residents are Tennessee fans, not Vanderbilt fans. So don't be shocked.
Can you blame them? I mean,
Well, for the longest time, but hey,
Exactly.
we were terrible too.
Yeah.
So, but it's just, I mean, it's just long stand. That's what I mean. It's a pipeline thing. You graduate from Tennessee, you typically get that corporate job in Nashville. Um, so there's going to be. Don't be shocked when you turn on your TV at if you're East Coast time zone noon, 11 Central, and like 9 a.m. Pacific. Um, don't be shocked when you turn your TV on and you see the Tennessee game and Vanderbilt Stadium is vastly orange.
Hmm.
Um, no, like I said, I'm picking Tennessee solely because I think it's just too big of a game. Um, only thing, like I said, the things that scare me: Diego Pavia and Nico starting slow again. If we can get rid of those two variables, I think Tennessee will be all right.
Yeah. I'm going to join you on that. I'm going with Tennessee here. Uh, you know, they like I said, I've said it for majority of this year, especially after seeing them in person. I think that Tennessee defense is probably the number one defense in the SEC. Uh, Granted, I predicted Oklahoma was going to be it. Uh, I think they're right there. They're close. Uh, but I just got a question. I mean, do you think does Josh Heupel, is he aware that Monty's weekly hot take is kind of riding on this game? Do you think he's like aware of the amount of circumstances weighing on his shoulders with this game he's got here against Vanderbilt?
I don't want to put too much more on my boy Hype's shoulders, so I'm gonna leave him in the dark for this one. But I'm sure the Tennessee longtime boosters have probably whispered in his ear a thing or two about what this game means. So
Yeah. I hope, like I said, I mean I hope they're able to figure out some of their issues with the pass pro that they showed against Georgia. However, I think they can run the football against this Vandy team. I would say Dylan Sampson has the opportunity to have a pretty good game. So we'll see if he's able to, you know, kind of continue that. I mean, Vanderbilt's defense. I mean, they're 36th against the run in the nation, 95th against the pass. Um, so they're a
it's
little.
that 95 number makes me feel better than that 36 number. If Nico can get hot like he did against UTEP, man, I mean, the door's wide open for
Yeah.
that pass game.
If
But
they.
he's got to start hot and stay hot.
Yeah, and hopefully Hype can scheme up some stuff, get him worked into the groove early, maybe get a
Right.
shot early in that first drive. We'll see.
I was going to say, like, that's the thing. Apple has been
The
scheming
receivers
things
the
up.
receivers have to catch it, and Nico has to not overthrow him. Got
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
All right, so both
Anyways,
going.
yeah, I don't want. See, I didn't want to talk too much about that one. It is what it is. Beat Vandy. That's all we got to do.
Yeah. Next one up, huge matchup, in-state rivals, South Carolina going to Clemson, take on the Tigers. Monty, who you got in this one? Clemson's a 2.5-point favorite here.
Yeah, I mean, with the home field advantage, right? It's they give you three, so
Pick 'em.
it's pretty much a pick 'em, which it should be. I mean, this is for the arguments being made on both sides. This could be a win or go home playoff game. Um, not saying it's likely for one or the other, but it's very possible for both. So depending on certain variables, but yeah, and both teams are going to look at it like that. Not only that, but it's the biggest rivalry for both teams, and both are ranked in the top 16,
Yeah,
top 15.
right around there.
So you can make the argument that College Game Day should have been here if the A&M Texas game wasn't already playing like 5 months ago,
Yeah.
which I don't blame. But anyways, no, this game is massive, sold out. Clemson's Death Valley, right? That's a dangerous environment as well. I think Dabo's going to get the boys right. I'm going with Clemson.
Yeah. The only thing, the
But
only,
I just want to say the
go ahead.
reason why I say Dabo's going to get the guys right is Dabo's been in this situation, big time game, implication game, playoff games, national championships. He knows how to get a team ready for situations like this. Beamer, as much as it pains me to say, he's a great coach, and he's done really good stuff at South Carolina. I just don't think he's going to get his guy. This South Carolina team's great, and I would not be shocked if they win. But with it being there in Clemson and the implications and Dabo being able to get his guys ready, almost like what I've said about Kirby Smart this year, I think that's going to be the separation. And Cade Klubnik over Lanier Sellers.
Yeah, man, I had to. Lenora Sellers, he started off the year a little rough. He's kind of rounded into form. And, man, it's kind of like. So when I go back through and I've watched, I think about this Clemson team, right? If I go back through their schedule, the only comparative defense they played to this South Carolina team is the one they faced week 1 against Georgia, where Georgia beat them 34-3. After that, they've played App State, NC State, Stanford, Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville, Virginia Tech. Got Louisville right that time. Pittsburgh, and the Citadel. That's not the murderer's row of defense. In this South Carolina team, they have a very good defensive line, and I gotta believe that Lenore Sellers, as he's kind of rounded into form, especially here late in the season, with that defense, I got to go with the Gamecocks here to go get the upset. Like I said, it's kind of a pick'em game. Go get the upset in Clemson, and to show that tides have turned in this state of South Carolina.
Hey, I'll be honest with you. I may be picking the wrong team. Because I waffled a back and forth on this one. Because I've been more impressed with South Carolina all season than I have with Clemson. Clemson has played some weird games, some questionable games. South Carolina, for the most part, this year has dominated. I just think we've seen it time and time again, year in and year out. Rivalry games are different.
They're weird.
Rivalry games are always different. South Carolina Clemson was considered one of the biggest rivalries in the country. Hell, look at this past week, right? You had USC, who's a pretty good team. They're not great, but they're pretty good. I'm talking about USC Trojans against a bad UCLA team this past weekend. UCLA led the game the whole game, lost 19-13. They held USC's Lincoln Riley led offense to 19 points. Man, I just think Dabo's going to have these guys ready. Something about it, and then it being in Clemson. Listen. If I'm wrong, I'm not shocked, but if I'm right, I'm also not shocked.
Right. I think I'm right there with you on that one. As you get into these late games, these these games are tough to pick because these are two very proven teams, that have been able to win. It's tough to go and win 10 games in college football. It's tough, no matter what schedule you're playing.
Especially this year.
Yeah, especially this year. So let's go ahead and roll on to the next one. We got Kansas State traveling to Ames to take on Iowa State. Iowa State, they got everything to lose and everything to gain from this game.
It's in the palm of their hands.
Yeah, it's in the palm of their hands. The playoffs for Iowa State start this week.
Absolutely, this is a playoff game, 100%.
So Monty, you're kind of the resident Iowa State
the quasi Iowa State fan.
Yeah, quasi Iowa State fan. So who do you got in this one, man?
Man, okay. So the easy answer, I picked Iowa State because it's in Ames. But, we saw what happened with Texas Tech. That's the last time we picked an Iowa State game. I really thought Iowa State was going to win that game with their defense, and Texas Tech was able to score a lot of points. That was a nasty game, weather-wise and everything. But K-State, compared to Texas Tech, K-State's, a nastier team than Texas Tech is. This is for those who don't know, this game – playoff game for Iowa State. You're right. Technically, win or go home. This game is called the Farmageddon game. This is Farmageddon, Farmers Rivalry. So this is a rivalry. This is a big game for Iowa State and K-State. Uh, this one goes back and forth, especially recently. So it's going to be a tough game. Rocco Beck's got to show out. I think Coach Campbell's going to have the guys ready. Really think my only argument for Iowa State this game, because I don't know. Iowa State, you never know. So yeah, this has been since Campbell's been the coach, even prior. You never know what Iowa State you're going to get week to week. The only reason why I pick Iowa State is because it's in Ames. To be honest with you, that's the only reason why I got them winning this one.
I think Vegas went with you on that. They said the exact same thing with them being favored by 3.
Yeah, so yeah, it's basically a pick 'em. But I'm going with the Cyclones, man. I think that it being in Ames and then the implications as well, getting down to the end here. So
yeah, I'm going with you on that one. I'm also taking the Cyclones. It boiled down to me is, which quarterback. When I was looking at this game and decided which one I was going to go with, which quarterback do I trust more? And we've talked about it. We've talked about it.
See, but that's a tough decision.
Because Rocco Beck has some of the same struggles that Avery Johnson does of riding the wave. Now, whenever you go with that, now Avery Johnson, we notated it the last time we were discussing him. He has played better at home. He struggled on the road. And I think he's going to struggle on the road this time. We'll see if Rocco Beck can make some plays at home, and maybe Iowa State can punch their ticket to the Big 12 championship, as Monty boldly predicted earlier this year. So yeah, I got to join you. I'm going with Iowa State here. We'll see what happens. So we got one of the most, or at least in the preseason, this was one of the most highly anticipated matchups of the year. This is one of the things that, hey, this is why conference realignment is great. It was because this rivalry was happening again. Texas versus Texas A&M at Kyle Field, home of the 12th man. Monty, what you got on this one, man? A&M is a 5.5 point underdog in here this game.
A&M is?
Yeah, A&M is a 5.5 point underdog.
Yeah, I mean after that Auburn game, that would make sense. I made this prediction earlier, and then I looked at your note, and we literally have basically the same thing. After this last weekend, I got Texas winning if Ewers plays. I like Arch Manning, but if I were to pick between Arch Manning and what's his name, Marcel
Reed.
Yeah, Marcel Reed. If I were to pick between them, I'm going with at home. We saw what they did against LSU. People can argue about LSU not being as good as we thought. Either way, they kind of kicked LSU's tail. And that was the last big game that they played. So, I got to go with the Longhorns, man. I think that the first time this game's being played in 12 years, Texas was winner in Kyle Field. On a last-second field goal. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a close game. I don't even know if Texas covers, to be honest with you. But I'm taking the Longhorns.
Yeah.
If Ewers plays.
Yeah, I got to go with you. We're making these predictions on the basis that Ewers is playing. Right now, they said mild ankle sprain, probably going to play on it. Actually, what this game relies to me is actually not even on that side of the ball with Quinn Ewers or versus the A&M defense. I think Sark's a good enough coach. Texas is going to be able to score some points. He's going to be able to scheme some stuff up. They got some good athletes there. Where it relies on me is I don't think Marcel Reed is going to be able to run all over this Texas defense, especially with some of the athletes they have in the linebacker spots. Mainly Anthony Hill, who's been playing out of this world, especially later in the year. I don't think he's going to be able to run on it, so it's going to rely on Marcel Reed to be able to beat Texas with his arm, and I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. So yeah, that's why I got to go. I got to join you with that. I got to go with the Longhorns. Pains me to say, but yeah, I got to go with the Longhorns here.
There you go. A little surprise pick. Iron Bowl. Who you got? Auburn, Alabama.
Bama.
Where it's at.
Huh?
I said I don't know where it's at. I don't know if it's in Jordan Hare or if it's in Tuscaloosa.
It's in Tuscaloosa. I'm going with Bama.
Yeah, I probably am too. Figure we might as well. That's probably the biggest rivalry, arguably, in the country. So we should have picked that one. We're both going with Bama. All right.
And we didn't even touch on. Are we both going Ohio State versus Michigan?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's in Columbus. So, I mean,
yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead, man. I'm ready. I've been waiting all week. Let's kick somebody in the nuts, Monty. Who do you got as your dud of the week, baby? Let's get them.
my dud of the week.
Lots of options to choose from this week, by the way. Lots of options.
You should know who I picked. I didn't tell you, but you should know who I picked. The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Boom!
Out of the 12-team playoff in its first year, Alabama's first year, they're not. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They might even lose the freaking Iron Bowl, and they might be a 4-loss team. Who knows? But even with 3 losses, I think they're done. So first year in the 12-team playoffs, first year without Bama without Saban, their first year, there's no playoff. No playoff hopes for Alabama. Just a bowl game. I don't say just a bowl game. I don't believe in just a bowl game. I love bowl games, but many people say just a bowl game.
Damn.
Bama Twitter complaining about officiating this week, saying that it's an SEC issue, which I agree. I don't talk about officiating. I do agree that it's an SEC issue, though. But they only started complaining about it this week after the OU game. When the Tennessee-Georgia game, they were telling Tennessee fans to shut up about officiating and how that, you always complain about officiating. Then literally right back to it, this is an SEC issue, all this stuff. And Tennessee fans are like, hello? What were we saying? Yeah, Bama's my dud of the week. Gone out of the 12. They expanded the playoff. Should have helped Alabama. And in year 1 without Saban. No dice.
It's the untucked shirt, baby. It's the untucked shirt. So
no collar.
Yeah. So for my dud of the week, I had to go with one of Nick Saban's disciples, Lane Kiffin. Let's go ahead. So yeah, Lane Kiffin, man, it seems this is a very senior heavy, another team that played themselves out of the college football playoff. Lane Kiffin, this is a very senior heavy team. This is a very NIL funded team through the transfer portal. And for them, Ole Miss went all in on this year, right? They said, this is our year. We got Jackson Dart coming back. We got all these transfers coming in, and up until last week, it looked like everything was going to be smooth sailing until they ran into Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. And
hey, I don't know what you got for your dub. That could be a dub though, for sure. Florida team and Billy Napier, what he's done, turned around with this awful season that was supposed to be for Florida. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, poor Billy Napier. He was one of my duds of the week earlier in the season. And then he was also a dub because he got, a vote of confidence or whatever. Either way, Lane Kiffin, I don't know, granted they're out of the playoff this year. Now, what does that spell for next year? Missing the playoff, having that senior heavy team. If they want to do it, they got to rebuild again through the portal. And, the donors are only going to cough up that money so many times until they're going to be like, we're not getting anything out of it. We're giving you this money. We're not getting anything. There's no return on our investment. So some questions going to be arising for the Ole Miss program, see how they handle the offseason. But I don't want to talk too much about the offseason because we need something to talk about here on our weekly episode. So, Ole Miss, dud of the week. Good job, Florida Gators.
All right. And then we'll flip it right back to you. Who won this week? Who's your dub?
There's no question on who my dub of the week should be. We are going right here, baby. Oklahoma Sooners, Boomer Sooner, baby. We needed that one.
Bowl
Oh,
eligible.
bowl eligible. We going
Eligible.
bowling. The 25-year streak continues.
Just when we thought, it was Meek. Just when we thought 5-5, Oklahoma Sooners with a game against Alabama and a game against LSU left. 5-5, Alabama LSU on the docket. No, they turned it around.
Exactly.
And Brent Venables and the boys figured it out.
It's that.
Yes.
It's that little meme, the little somebody better call an ambulance, but not for
But
me,
not
baby.
for me.
That's the Sooners, so I had to go with them, man. Huge win for Brent Venables. This could be something you use to turn the tide. Kind of get out of all the
No
negative
pun
vibes.
intended. Turn the tide.
Turn the tide. Yeah, so I had to go with the Oklahoma Sooners, man. That was awesome. It was a great game to watch, and makes me excited for Saturday coming up, man. Makes me excited. So, Monty, let's go. Who's your dub of the week? Who are you praising?
Man, this one is long overdue, some would argue. I would now argue. I'm sorry to all the fans that don't listen, but have been ignored by us.
We're doing pretty good on viewership, by the way. We'll talk about it a little later.
Well, I'll get to who this is because I doubt that we have very little, if any, of these fans. But if there are any out there, I apologize. Overlooked. This is long overdue. This dub. Sun Devils and Kenny Dillingham. What he has done in year one. Josh Heupel in year one at Tennessee went 7-5, 7-6 after the controversial bowl loss to Purdue. In that same year, Shane Beamer was a year one coach at South Carolina. I believe they went 6-6. It is hard to play at one of these schools like this. Not only does ASU have even less of a gimme than Tennessee and South Carolina, they're coming from the Pac-12. They're literally in the Big 12 for the first year, so they're playing arguably harder competition, and they're about to probably have a 10-win season in Dillingham's first year, maybe even 11-win season going into the playoffs.
Ooh.
That's year one. But not only that is the reason why he and ASU are my dub of the week. What he has done culture-wise. I said it earlier, ASU used to be everyone knows ASU is like a party school, right? ASU became a party school because they were so popular because they had good athletics. That has kind of lessened, especially in the 2010s to the 2020s. It was just known as a party school because they were all right in baseball and all right in basketball and average to bad in football. I mean, if I was one of those the old timer, I don't want to say old timer, the ASU people that went to the school in the 90s, I'm starting to pump that money back in the program. Mm-hmm. This is what they are used to. This is year one. Probably going to be 10-win regular season, probably maybe even 11-win Big 12 champs. Year one. This young head coach, Kenny Dillingham and ASU. It's my dub.
Yeah, and man, I think it's kind of one of the least talked about things is how difficult it is to win in year one, either it be of a new conference or as a new coach or whatever, because it's the teams that have been there have been established in that conference. They have notes from last year. Tennessee's offense does it have a little different wrinkles this year? Yes, but is it for the most part? Are you still scheming against the same things? Yes. So you still have that same notes to carry over. Whenever you're the new team, you're scouting a new team every week, and it is a new game plan every week. And you don't have any carryover.
Yeah, I mean, other than Arizona, who you play every year.
Yeah.
Colorado, who moved over with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the only 3 12 teams that went to the Big 12. So everybody else, you're playing, I don't know if they played this year, but Central Florida, you're playing Iowa State, you're playing, the K-States, the West Virginias. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And it's a different style of football
Mm-hmm.
because these recruits are coming from a different style of high school football.
Yep.
So you're going from this West Coast style to this ground and
Midwest.
pound Midwest. Yeah, it's challenging. And then on top of that, your coach is a first year head coach. So
Yeah. Kenny Dillingham, dude is probably going to be getting a big contract. And, I understand Kurt Cignetti's getting a lot of the hype for Coach of the Year. However, Kenny Dillingham should be getting some recognition for it, just with the job he's done.
if Billy Napier's getting some recognition right now, which I don't agree with, I think, Dillingham should be in the conversation as well.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, that's going to do it for this episode of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. I didn't say it earlier. This was episode 18. We want to thank y'all for tuning in to all the episodes that we've had, helping us grow the show. Like we always say, man, tell your friends, always subscribe to the channel, follow our social medias on X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We post little clips, all that stuff throughout the week. If there's anything y'all want on the show, reach out to us, man. Let us know. We'll make sure to get it included for y'all. Monty, you got anything you want to say, man?
Yep, just another thank you for people that are listening. We've been trying to do the episodes earlier in the week. Ideally, we probably want them on Tuesday nights, but just with work and obviously with the holidays this week, caused it to be another Monday. But we're trying to get it out there. We're trying to pump it out to y'all so y'all can get it leading up to the weekend. But we're thankful nonetheless. Happy to be here. Another great week, I'm sure, going to happen. Probably more chaos. We could be talking about Baylor in the Big 12 championship come next week. So we'll see.
Yeah, lots of scenarios there for the Big 12, and right now I'm the fan of a 6-5 football team, so I'm all about chaos. So,
my team is playoff implications, so we're hoping that we
smooth sailing over there, right?
Smooth sailing.
All right, until next week, man. We'll catch y'all. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all. Peace.